Today, we're cracking the code of a book you probably think you know to uncover some incredible secrets hidden just beneath the surface.
I mean, what if the stories you've heard 100 times, all the parables, all the miracles, what if they were actually a kind of code designed to be understood on a much, much deeper level? To find that key, you've got to go back to the beginning, to the very first gospel ever written. See, Mark's gospel is just different. It's direct, it's dramatic, and it doesn't have all the extra explanations you find in the later gospels. It's right here, in its rawest form, that the code is the easiest to see. Okay, let's dive in. So, our first key to cracking this whole thing is found in the parables. Now, you should think of a parable as a story with a secret parallel meaning. Were they a clever way to hide some pretty radical ideas from the authorities, or just a powerful way to teach? Honestly, probably both. But either way, they are absolutely packed with symbolism. The story itself is pretty simple, right? A sower is just throwing seeds everywhere. Some of it lands on a hard path, and the birds just come and snatch it up. Some falls on rocky ground, and yeah, it sprouts up fast, but it withers as soon as the sun gets hot. Other seeds, they land among thorns and just get completely choked out. But finally, some of that seed falls on good soil, and it produces this incredible harvest. So, is this just, some good agricultural advice? Or is Jesus using this everyday image of farming to give us a profound map of the human spirit and how we receive new ideas?
And here's how that code unlocks. The path isn't just dirt. It's a mind that's too distracted, too closed off for a new idea to even land. The rocky ground, well, we all know this one. It's that flash of initial excitement that just vanishes at the first sign of trouble. And the thorns? That's a life so tangled up in worldly worries that nothing new and important can possibly grow. But that good soil, that represents a mind that is open, receptive, and ready. And that's our first piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so if the parables are basically coded stories, then what about the miracles? This is where the code gets even deeper, and the symbolism becomes even more powerful. And we see it in one of the most famous stories of all. Picture the scene. A massive crowd. We're talking 5,000 men, and that's not even counting the women and children. They're out in the middle of nowhere, they're hungry, and they're getting desperate. And all the disciples can scrounge up is 5 loaves of bread and 2 little fish. I mean, it's an absolutely impossible situation. And yet somehow everyone eats until they are completely full. Now, the surface level reading is that this is a spectacular, supernatural event. But what if, just like the parable, this is also a code? What if the real miracle here isn't about the food itself, but about what that food represents? And this is where the code just becomes crystal clear. According to this way of reading it, the 5 loaves aren't just bread. They are a symbol for the 5 books of the Torah, the absolute foundation of Jewish law. And the 2 fish? They represent the 2 great commandments that Jesus saw as the very core of his teaching, to love God and to love your neighbor. So you see, this isn't really a story about an empty stomach. It's about a hungry soul. Jesus is showing that true spiritual nourishment comes from combining the foundation of the old law with this radical new ethic of love. That is the feast that can truly feed everyone. But the code in Mark's gospel isn't just spiritual. Oh no, it gets deeply political, and it contains a really sharp critique of the ruling power of the day, the Roman Empire. So in one story, Jesus travels to a non-Jewish region, and he comes across this man who's being tormented by a demon. And when Jesus asks the demon for its name, the answer is just chilling. "My name is Legion," it says, "for we are many." Now, that is not a random name. For anyone living under Roman rule at that time, the word legion meant one thing: the overwhelming, oppressive military force of the empire, thousands of soldiers, an occupying army. So the man isn't just possessed by some spirit, he's possessed by the spirit of empire. His personal torment is a powerful metaphor for the suffering of his entire community under Roman occupation. And the coded layers here just keep stacking up. It's amazing. First, Jesus casts this legion into a herd of pigs, a deeply unclean animal in Jewish culture, making them a perfect symbol for a foreign occupier.
But get this, the actual emblem of the 10th Roman Legion, the very unit that would later crush the Jewish revolt, was a pig. And then, when those pigs drown in the sea, it's a direct echo of the Exodus story, when Pharaoh's army was destroyed. So this isn't just an exorcism, it's a powerful, coded story of liberation.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most challenging, piece of code in the entire gospel. Its ending. Or maybe I should say, its lack of one. Now, a lot of us are familiar with stories of Jesus appearing to people after the resurrection. But in the original, oldest manuscripts of Mark, those stories just aren't there. The gospel ends in a much stranger and, frankly, more unsettling way. So here's what happens. A few of his female followers go to the tomb to anoint the body. They get there and find the stone's been rolled away and the tomb is empty. A young man in a white robe tells them that Jesus has risen and has gone on ahead of them to Galilee, just like he promised. And he tells them, go tell the disciples. And this is the final line of the entire book. Instead of running to spread the good news, they flee the tomb in terror and silence. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. That's it. The end. So why? Why would you end on such a shocking note of failure and fear? Well, it's because the empty tomb isn't just an empty space. It's a space for you, the reader, to step into. The story intentionally leaves this huge void. The women were given a mission, but they were too afraid to do it. The command is just left hanging in the air. And that is the final, brilliant code. See, Mark's gospel doesn't conclude, it confronts. It ends by turning to you, the reader, across 2,000 years, and it asks you a question. The women failed, the disciples fled. Jesus has gone on ahead. So now that you've heard the message, now that you've seen the code, what are you going to do about it? The story's unfinished, and it's waiting for your answer.